This is the biology class, okay? We're talking about the biology. And the first thing is anatomy. What is anatomy? Anatomy is a branch of science that studies the human body, also the structures of another living things. This branch studies the body and tries to find an answer to how the body composes. Also, in criminal scenes, this helps to understand how the criminal works and how the people die. Okay, then the second term is anthropology. This is the study of human societies and cultures. This branch helps psychologists to understand how the human brain compares with the society. Okay, then the third term is botany. The botany is the science of study of plants, including the philosophy, structure, and genetics. In the past, in Mexico, the Aztecas had a book that helped them to identify all the plants and know if they are poisonous and they can eat them. Then is the parology. This is the branch of philosophy and medicine that concerned with the study of embryos and the development. The fourth term is biochemistry. This is the branch of science concerned with the chemical and philosophical process of substances that occur inside the living things, also like in the cells and our humans. Okay. Then is cytology. This is the study that is concerned with the structure and function of the plant and animal cells. Then is genetics. That is the study of heredity and the variation of inherited characteristics of all humans. Then is histology. That is the study of microscopic structures and tissues. Immunology. That is the branch of medicine and biology concerned with immunity. This studies the vaccines that humans apply to themselves in order to be immune to viruses. Then is virology. There is the branch of philosophy that deals with the study of viruses. This comes in hand with immunity because it also studies the viruses. Then finally is the zoology. There is a study of behavior, structure, psychology, classification, and distribution of animals. Okay. Then, how life started in the planet? Well, there is a lot of factors. The most important is that evolution. The humans started as a small cell that was in a meteorite in the space, spontaneously, that generated inside it. Then it comes to the Earth, as we know, and that virus began to spread and began to be more and more evolved, began to learn, and then it created another type of fishes and another like octopuses and other things. Then these began to evolve in reptiles, and this also evolved, and the eyes become more and more with the light and began to differentiate between different things like the earth, the plants, and other things. Then this evolved to in the monkeys, and finally into
Eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells. As a singularity, they have nucleus, which are from what they obtain energy. They also have ribosomes and cell membranes. The eukaryotic cells have a membrane enclosed to the nucleus, mitochondria, the nucleus, ribosomes, and the cell membrane. The prokaryote has a nucleus, a capsule, which is outside to cover the cell, a flagellum, which is the light tail thing, and the cell wall, which is only in some eukaryotes. It also has the cell membrane, which protects the cell. Characteristics of living things. Living things have cellular organization, which means they are made from cells. They also reproduce to keep their species alive. To gain nutrients, they use a process called metabolism. They respond to stimuli as reactions to survive. They grow and develop as they live, and they adapt and survive to keep their species going through time.
Welcome. This will be the history of the microscope. My name is Andres Escobar. Now, the first event that we will talk about is in the 1608, where the telescope was invented by Galileo Galilei. And this was a very meaningful invention because later on it worked to Hans Zacharias to invent the microscope around the 16th. And the next event we'll talk about is the publish of Micrographia. That is a book published by Hooke, which in this book was present the images of a microscope with a length of 30 of magnitude. This, in those times, was great because it was like the new technology they have. Then, on the late 1660s, Van Leeuwenhoek invented his own lenses, which was the beginning of simple microscopes. This means these microscopes were compound that had many parts, but this microscope was easy to use. Then, on the 70s and 80s, Ernest Abbe invented better lenses that were of 1000 of magnitude in the objects they wanted to observe. And finally, the last event is the most new. In 1931, two German inventors created the electron microscope. This was to see the cellular. This was first to see the cellular, the prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, but then they discovered that they could see some electrons running around. And well, this is how we get to the end of this story. So basically, these two were compound microscopes. And then Van Leeuwenhoek invented simple microscopes. Then better lenses were created. And finally, the electron microscope is the ones to see, well, as its name says, electrons. Okay, now we will explain the cell and cell theory. Now, first we'll explain what is a cell. The cell is the basic unit of life. Everything that has a life is made of cells. What do we mean with this? Well, we know that the most little particle, it's an atom. Now we have this, that is a cell. Cell is also a very little particle, but it is on all living things. Now, cells can be divided in eukaryotic and prokaryotic. Eukaryotic cells are these ones, and prokaryotic are these ones. These are known as animal cells, and these are vegetal cells. Now, the cell theory. There were three scientists that made this theory: Theodor Schwann, Matthias Schneiden, and Rudolf Virchow. Now, the cell theory states, all living things are made of cells. And these living things may be cellular or unicellular. What do I mean? This means unicellular organisms are the ones, like its name says, uni, one, cellular, cell, one cell, unicellular, such as bacteria. And multicellular are living things that has a lot of cells, such as human beings or animals. Now, as I mentioned before, the cell is the basic unit of life. Now, the next point. Cells can only arise from another cells. What do we mean? This means that cells can only be duplicated, and that is how cells basically reproduce or produce another cell. That's the only way they can be created, a cell. The next, energy flow occurs within cells. That means that energy flows through cells. That means if one cell needs an organism from another, this cell produces a duplicates the organism this cell's needs and send it. Now, DNA is passed from cell to cell. What do you mean? DNA that is passed from cell to cell. What do you mean? DNA that like heredity. The DNA that comes from your parents is passed from cell to cell, not from the organs, not from the arm, from cell to cell. Now, all cells have the same chemical composition. No, doesn't matter if it's eukaryotic or prokaryotic, have the same chemical composition. This is the cell theory. These were their creators, and these are some examples of cells. Now, I also explained unicellular and multicellular. I will repeat it again. Unicellular are the ones only one cell, multicellular, a lot of cells. And don't forget that all living things are composed of cells.
The different forms of cell transport. The first one is passive transport, that is the movement of molecules across the cell membrane and does not require energy. The second is active transport. The active transport requires the cell to use energy, usually in the form of ATP. The active transport creates a charge gradient in the cell membrane. For example, in the mitochondrion, hydrogen ion pumps hydrogen ions into the intermembrane space of the organelle as part of making ATP. The third, that is diffusion, is the movement of molecules from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. The fourth is facilitated diffusion. This process does not require ATP but does require cell membrane proteins, which are called carrier proteins, to carry the molecules across the cell membrane from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. The fifth, endocytosis, is a process in which a substance gains entry into a cell without passing through the cell membrane. The sixth is the exocytosis. It's a process in which a substance is excited from the cell without passing through the cell membrane. The next theme is levels of organization. There is 10 levels of organization. These levels start from the smallest unit of life and work out to the largest and most broad category. The molecules are made of atoms, the smallest unit of chemical elements. A cell, the next one is a cell. A cell is the basic unit of life. There are two kinds of cells: plant cells, which have a rigid cell wall made of cellulose molecules, and animal cells, which have flexible cell membranes. The next one is tissue. Tissue is made of cells that work together to perform a certain task. The next is the organ. An organ is a system of tissue that work together on a larger scale to do certain jobs within an animal's body. The next one is the organ system. An organ system is a group of organs that work together to perform specific bodily functions. The respiratory system, for example, uses the lungs, airways, and respiratory muscles to know oxygen and release carbon dioxide in animals. The next one, organisms. An organism is a recognizable, self-contained individual. Organisms can be unicellular organisms such as bacteria or amoeba, or multicellular of organisms comprised of organs and organ system. The next is the population. A population is a group of multiple organisms of the same species within a specific area. For example, a pride of lions in Kenya, Africa, is a population. The next one, the next one is the community. A community consists of all different species within a certain area. The next is ecosystem. An ecosystem made up of all the communities in a certain area as well as the non-living physical components of the environment. Rocks, water, and dirt are part of an ecosystem. The biosphere. That is the next one. The biosphere is all the ecosystem on Earth added together. Every animal, plant, bacteria, rock, and molecules is a part of the Earth's biosphere.
Health in adolescence is vital for the human being, with adolescence being the part of life with the most changes happening simultaneously. If any physical, mental, or psychological faculties are damaged, and even worse, if it is in a permanent way, this could change the life of the adolescent, but adolescence is not the only time in life where one must protect their health. In fact, one must always protect its health since it is the constant assurance of a good condition. There are many ways to have a healthy lifestyle, like healthy diet, regular exercise, and many more. For example, auto-regulation of temperature in the body to maintain vital functions that depend of their cold or warm blood, where external temperatures cause irritation, the internal temperatures counter this for the preservation of the organism, since life itself is trying to maintain balance. Life itself is the one that designs its body and organs to coexist with one another and maintain survival, thus making and maintaining homeostasis. Health and disease in adolescence and in the lifestyle. Health is vital for survival and of any organisms. The healthier you are, the more chance one has to live longer and better. Health is the well-being of the physical, mental, and psychological faculties of a living thing, and disease can be considered the opposite to this.